How's it going, everybody? This is MarcTheCyborg and Lethal Lightning here. We have been playing the game Nier Replicant because we are the Geeks and Gamers resident weebs who also play video games, and the Nier series is a premier series of weeb video games. Very action-packed, but also very heady as far as the story is concerned. Very anime-inspired in a lot of ways. So Lethal, what have you thought of what you've played so far?
So far, really enjoying it. I'm about 5 hours into it. I got this game back in 2010 when it was first released in Western audiences, or maybe I got like 2011, whatever. But I never finished it. I had it on Xbox 360. I just never got around to finishing it. And because it was the Western version, it was a little bit different, where you play as the father. Yeah. And this one, you're the brother, which I believe is how it originally was in Japan. And just for the Western release, they changed, the story's the same, but they just changed some of the dialogue, so you refer to as father instead of brother. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but overall, really enjoying it.
The subtitle of the Xbox 360 American version was Gestalt, and
yes.
the subtitle of the, I think, PS3 version, although was it specifically the Japanese PS3 version, or do you happen to know if Replicant was only in Japan, or if Replicant was the PS3 version we got here as well? Because I remember there being something where the 360 version and the PS3 version were sort of different games, and I was under the impression that one of them was Gestalt and the other one was Replicant.
I'm pretty sure the 360 was Gestalt from memory, but I might be wrong on that. It's been a bit.
Well, I mean, I guess I could do a little bit of research and maybe pop some text up on the screen saying if we ever got Replicant here, but I never played it on PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 or I guess now 2 generations ago. My first experience with Nier Automata was with Nier Automata, which is the sequel to this game, specifically the sequel to Ending D of Nier Replicant. So Gestalt has nothing to do with Automata, because in Automata you never can get the ending that leads into Automata, if that makes sense to anybody. But Yoko
gets
Taro,
a bit confusing.
The director of this series, Yoko Taro, who also did the Drakengard series, which also takes place in the same universe, is a really weird dude. He's the one, if you've ever seen him in interviews, will always be wearing the kind of moon face that looks sort of like the androids from, or not the androids, sorry, the robots, the machines from Nier Automata. And he's always wearing a scarf too. He's like a very eccentric Japanese dude, kind of like one of those auteur directors. I always kind of joke that Nier Automata is the sequel to the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 game Nier, and the director Yoko Taro is the sequel to humanity. Because he just seems like he's on a whole other level of crazy than that we're used to dealing with from pretty much anyone outside of Kojima, who actually, honestly, now that I think about it, the Metal Gear series kind of goes over a lot of similar themes. What did you think about, I guess if you already played the original Nier, you weren't as probably shocked as I was about the setting, because I was kind of under the impression that this was like a sci-fi series for the most part, but this game is much more fantasy than Automata was. Like, Automata is a game that takes place 10,000 years, I think, after this game, and deals with androids and machines or robots that were the product of an alien invasion. So the robots that made the aliens made these robot-like looking creatures, and the androids look like humans, and basically it's the creations of the aliens and the creations of the humans fighting each other. But it's very science fiction. There's like no mystical element to it at all, really, in Automata, or at least that I can remember. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I played through it recently. There's a bit of fantasy, but it's definitely a lot more sci-fi than this one. Yeah,
and this one, the thing that replaces, I guess it doesn't replace, the pods from Automata replace the book in this one, but your sidekick that also acts as your ranged weapon is a magic book that speaks.
Grimoire Weiss is his name.
Grimoire Weiss, who is the White Book, and I'm in the process now of tracking down Grimoire Noir in order to, I guess, finish the story, and that would be the Black Book. And they are both required to cure an affliction called the Black Scrawl, which is for lack of a better way of putting it, it's almost like writing that appears on people's skin that eventually turns them into mindless monsters. Am I correct in that assertion?
More or less, yeah. You're probably a little bit further than me, but that's kind of my gathering of it.
Yeah, the lore is a bit tough. It's not super easy to understand, especially because I honestly think that I'm almost at a disadvantage having played Nier Automata, because I don't think I could learn anything about this game's lore by playing Nier Automata. I think the only thing that they really have in common is the basic gameplay style feels pretty similar, and there's waifus with white hair, I guess.
There's two characters that are in both games, and there's a location that's in both games. But I don't want to go into spoilers.
Okay, so yeah, well, I mean, again, like, as much as I might be further than you in the remake to Replicant, the one that we're playing now, you've played the original game, which I haven't at all, so I don't have any idea what the original Nier was like. I knew that it was a game that had kind of a following, but I guess it just kind of slipped under my radar, and I never ended up playing it. And the only reason I played Nier Automata is because I was hearing so many good things about it, and I really love that game. I think it's incredible. I was actually working on a video of it a while ago and just got sidetracked by a bunch of new release games I needed to review for Geeks and Gamers, but I do plan to get back to the Nier Automata video at some point. What do you think of the combat? Because that was the thing that I've kind of been most impressed by. I actually kind of think it might be a bit better than Automata, and that is saying something because I'm a huge fan of the developer of Automata, Platinum Games, who did not make this game. This was made by a company called Toy Logic.
As far as being better, I don't know about that, but it's very good, to put it simply. Like, the way you do like the side steps kind of reminds me of like Kingdom Hearts 2 a bit. The light attacks, the heavy attacks, the combos, I feel the combos are really good. And then once you start chaining it with ranged attacks from the book, and you use like your like special attacks that you get from the book, like Dark Lance or whatever, I think it all flows really, really well. I have found that sometimes you can kind of just spam block, and if you keep spamming it, you'll either just block every attack, or you'll get hit because you'll get timed bad. But if you keep doing it, eventually you're just going to hit a counter attack, and you'll be able to knock them off their feet and then go at them.
So that's what I was going to ask. So do you mean spamming block, like tapping block to hit a parry, or holding block?
Tap it.
Okay, yeah, because I find the parry system in this game is actually pretty good. The one thing I had to kind of wrap my head around, though, is you've got to activate the parry almost a little bit earlier than you think you should, because it's like you have to start the parry when the enemy is like mid attack, as opposed
That's why you
to
spam it
the moment that they're gonna hit you. And most games like Sekiro or Ghost of Tsushima, it's the moment that the enemy is making contact that you want to shoot for. So wrapping your head around that is a little tricky at first, but I think for the most part they really nailed the satisfying parry where you like knock the enemy off balance, and then you get that really powerful combo that you can then activate that gives you the little AoE of kind of the book attack around you. Like a magic attack kind of forms around your character if you're doing a combo after a parry. And I think that's really good, and it gives you that little kind of moment of slow motion too. And yeah,
one thing I've noticed though is with the combat, with the lock-on system specifically, it's really easy to flick between targets. But if you're out in an open field and you're fighting a bunch of shades where there's like goats and sheep running around as well, if you keep flicking through targets, you might, and it happens a lot, you lock onto a goat or something and you turn your back to your enemies and you cop a few hits. So maybe it would be nice if they, like, I don't know, added something where it would be like, if you're in combat, you can only target like what are considered hostile targets in that specific fight. Because I've just found myself on my back to the fight quite a few times, flicking through targets because I'm trying to kill a goat all of a sudden.
And especially the goats and sheep, that is a little on the annoying side. Things like the warthogs or the wild hog and the deer, they can actually do damage to you though. So like those you might actually want to be able to lock onto, but the sheep are very harmless. And you're right, if you are fighting in that first area just outside of the town where there's all the sheep, which basically is like the farming area for any time you have a mutton collection quest, which we can get to because those actually happen pretty often. And if I have any major complaint about what I've played so far, it's that the side quests seem very video gamey. Like there is a lot of like, oh yeah, I need like 6 chicken eggs, or yeah, no, I need like 7 pieces of mutton, and there's not really anything to them more than just going to get the thing and then bringing it back to the person who gave you the quest.
Yes.
Which, I mean, in fairness to the game, they're highly optional. You don't really have to do them at all. And in fact, I haven't really ever found myself hard up for money during this game. And you don't really get experience from the quests either. You really just get money from them, and sometimes the odd item here and there. But I find the side quest design feels very Xbox 360, PS3 generation. Like I think
yes.
That's the stuff that I think Nier Automata does like a lot better. Where the side quests in that game I think were pretty basic too, but they didn't feel like they were total just like fetch quests of like go out and kill 20 sheep. But
one of the bigger things about this game is probably the characters.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about them?
I like them so far. In fact, I think that they do a pretty good job of connecting you to Yona and I guess protagonist. I mean, he's called Mark in my playthrough because the first thing that comes up is what's your name, and I figured it was just going to be like a profile thing like my save files, but you are naming the main character when you and I don't know what his canon name is either. But I think that their relationship is set up pretty well by that flash forward that you get in the intro where you're super powerful, and it looks like a totally different like world, really. Like it seemed almost like modern civilization, like post-apocalyptic, very snowy. Like you're in skyscrapers, and it all looks kind of run down and broken, kind of almost similar to Automata, just with snow. And in that scene, you see him already kind of caring for his sister and trying to protect her with I think he has the I think the grimoire noir in that scene, and she ends up opening it. But I think my point is they do a pretty good job of connecting you to the two main figures of the story, like the protagonist and his sister, pretty early on. And so far, I find Grimoire Vice very, very funny. Like,
yeah, I love him. I love him.
Like,
he's so
pretty
sassy,
snarky, and cool. Yeah, and he's contrasted quite well by Kaine, the waifu girl, in the incredibly sexy outfit. Like it's almost unbelievably sexy. Like because she turns around and you notice that the skirt she's wearing has no back. It's a backless skirt. I didn't even realize that was a thing. But yeah, so the waifu quotient in this game is pretty high, considering especially it's primarily only one girl that's in the game, because the sister is like a little girl who spends most of her time in a bed or like looking at books in a library. But I think that Kaine, the waifu girl, is constantly swearing, and she's really like foul-mouthed, and Grimoire Vice seems to really not like her, so he's always like calling her a hussy and stuff. And I think their interplay has been really great, and she has her own kind of mini character arc. Have you gotten to the boss fight where you team up with her against the big kind of scorpion thing?
Yep.
Have you gotten to the end of that?
The last time I did that, you fight it in the village, and she talks about her grandmother.
Yeah. So like the thing kind of pretends to be her grandmother for a second, and you get some hints that she's got her left arm and her left leg are both bandaged up, and you kind of get the impression that something happened to her, because the people in the village don't like her and they call her a mutant. She lives in this little trailer kind of just outside the village too, and there's a lot kind of going on there, and I have a feeling, just knowing what I know about Yoko Taro's writing, like having played Nier Automata, is I have a feeling there's going to be some pretty cool things we learned about these people. The sequence I just got to also is almost like a little survival horror mini sequence where you're in this mansion, where the mansion itself is black and white. Like the characters are still in color, but the mansion, like the background is all black and white, and it's all fixed camera angles, like an old Resident Evil game. Like one of the original 3 or 4 Resident Evil games, not 4, but like original 3 and then Code Veronica. And you can't run, you can't run or dodge in there. You can only walk. So it seems like Yoko Taro was just like, yeah, I'm gonna make this area like an old PlayStation 1 survival horror game. And that seems pretty neat, and you end up fighting a book. A book is the last boss of that part. And
I think her voice acting, Laura Bailey, is probably one of her better performances as
Laura
well.
Bailey?
Yeah, that's one of her better.
I guess that would make some sense. Like Laura Bailey and Troy Baker and Nolan North are pretty much in everything. But
yeah, it's one of her better performances. And the brother is voiced by the dub version of Tanjiro from Demon Slayer.
Oh, seriously? That's actually kind of funny because I didn't particularly like him as Tanjiro, but I do like the protagonist of Nier. I was actually kind of wondering if it was the same guy who does the voice of 9S. Because to me they sound kind of similar, but I don't know if that's just because the art direction is kind of similar, and I know I'm playing a Nier game. But yeah, Tanjiro, I wasn't crazy about the English voice acting, which is why I watched Demon Slayer in Japanese. But that's an interesting little tidbit, because I was thinking that the protagonist of Nier and Yona is sort of similar to Tanjiro and Nezuko, like in that she's got like a virus that's turning her into a monster, and her like brother who's a swordsman is protecting her and trying to find a cure. And I'm like, oh, that's very Demon Slayer.
And Grimroar Vice is voiced by Red Skull. So this game is essentially Tanjiro traveling around with Red Skull fighting monsters.
Red Skull, like Hugo Weaving?
No, not Hugo Weaving. DC Douglas. He's in one of the old Avenger cartoons. So not Hugo Weaving.
Right, yeah, no, I don't think I've seen Red Skull in a cartoon maybe since I was 9 years old, and I'm an old man, but I was thinking, I feel like I would have recognized Hugo Weaving's voice.
So you have Tanjiro trying to track down Red Skull, if you want to look at it that way.
Tanjiro, Abby, and Red Skull.
Yep.
We got Abby, Tanjiro, and Jordan Peterson.
Don't forget, it's wrong to eat your children.
What have you thought about, I guess you're playing on a base PlayStation 4?
Yep.
How's the performance for you? What's it running like? How's it looking?
Really smooth, actually. It runs surprisingly well. It's doing all right. It's nothing amazing, but there's been no huge frame drops. It doesn't crash. It runs well. I haven't had a single issue with it. I mean, it's not as good as it could be, obviously, but it does the job.
How would you compare it to Automata?
Oh, yeah, about the same.
So it looks like it maybe even is running on the same engine or something. Because I've noticed that at least on PC, I'm shocked at how clean the port is and how well optimized it is. Considering
I've heard it's got a lot of issues on PC. A lot of people told me.
Replicant?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not encountering anything. I was a little worried when I booted it up at first because it defaults to windowed mode in 720p. So I was just like, oh no. I was like, is this going to be like Automata? But then I went into the settings menu and just switched it to 4K, put those settings to max, full screen mode, and done. And I've been in a locked 60 frames a second the entire time. I'm playing in my bedroom, so that's the highest my TV can display. And yeah, I guess, I mean, the footage everyone you're watching now is from my computer. So if I'm overblowing the technical performance, that's it. But I haven't watched like a Digital Foundry on it or anything. I'm just going by my own first-hand experience. And I can say for sure that it is a much better port than Nier Automata was, because Nier Automata essentially needed the FAR mod, the Fixed Automata Resolution mod, in order to be playable. We hear that Platinum is working on, or maybe even Square Enix, is working on a proper patch for the Steam version of Automata, but it has it's not happened yet. So you still, oh god, Harley, sorry, that's my puppy, not this puppy, the other one, the evil one. Good. This is the angel puppy. Anyways, it seems like she's barking now. But yeah, the Nier Automata essentially requires the FAR mod, Fixed Automata Resolution. Otherwise, the resolution in that game is totally messed up, and it boxes into like a weird, almost like 4:3 aspect ratio, and then you can blow it up to from 720p, but it's just all wrong, especially for modern computers. But the mod fixes it quite well. Nier Replicant, though, doesn't seem to have anything like that, so I've been pretty impressed with the performance. What about the music? What have you thought about the music
so far?
Love it.
Absolutely fucking love it. Love it, love it, love it. Hook it to my veins. Love it.
Yeah, I was playing for about an hour and a half, and then I got an email from Square Enix saying there was a vinyl collection of 3 vinyl records for the soundtracks of Nier Automata, Replicant, and Gestalt, and I'm like, Okay, I'll buy this.
So all up, how are you feeling about it? Like, loving it so far?
I mean, I really like it so far. I think my final verdict on it, I wouldn't be able to really tell you until I'm guessing probably I've played it a few times, because as I was saying, I researched that it was ending D, like ending route Delta of Nier Replicant that leads into Automata. So I imagine there's at least 4 endings and probably a few playthroughs similar to Automata, I'm imagining. I actually don't know yet. So I think I'm pretty far away from a final verdict, especially if the endings change my perception of it the same way, say, ending E of Automata changed my basically perception of that entire game prior. But I think that, at least for me, it's safe to say that if you're a person who likes character action games and Japanese role-playing games, very story-based, character-driven stuff with like fast, responsive combat and interesting story themes and issues that it's tackling in some unique ways, I think I could strongly recommend this as a buy to like anyone who's interested in it. I'm really loving my time with it so far. What about you?
I 100% agree with all that. I highly recommend this game. It's so far really, really good. I think it's well worth picking up.
Yeah, all right, there you have it. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up now. I guess everyone at home, let us know if you like this format. I haven't stopped doing my full-on, heavily edited video reviews. For a first impression, Lethal and I thought it would be really cool to just sit down and have almost like a little breakout of a podcast episode where we talk about how we've been thinking about the game, cut with some nice looking gameplay footage. So if you guys want to see more content like this, let us know in the comments and we'll keep making it.
And subscribe to Gaming with Geeks and check out geeksandgamers.com, and we'll see you all later.